So it makes. So we were saying we don't know what happened. We lost you. Something happened there.
Yeah,
It's over.
so my
She
power,
picked
my
it up.
power, my power went out on my PC. See, I told you all technology
I
episode
won.
episode 2, technology does hurt our life. Look at that, the middle of the sweetest thing. I was like, what's going on here? So sorry, but I'm back. Continue, Paul. Sorry, I missed some.
It's okay. I'll back up so it overlaps just to make sure. You started recording it?
Yeah, we back on.
So I was just saying about my 3 kids and their.
Sorry. Confused me, Paul. You see, you had me thinking I was recorded it. Come on.
That's okay. You get, yeah, you got to get you a
This
tutorial.
is
That's
live, folks. You see, we're proving it
live,
right
live
now.
and direct. Yeah. But no,
Unscripted.
just talking about my kids and looking at them as an example, and how we gave them the same messages that we received, whether it's the right message or not. But through the process for myself and also my wife, we've learned to tailor or adjust our message. So just really quickly as a recap, so I have 3 kids, one elder daughter, and then I have 2 twins below that. I say 2 twins, meaning a set
You
of
have a
twins.
twin, yeah.
Three,
Correct
three
that,
kids. Yeah.
educator. You have a twin, not
So,
2 twins. You
yeah,
have 4?
exactly. There you go. So we end up having 3 kids, and they're within 2 ages of each other. So our thing was always about education. So my eldest daughter, she went off, did the university thing, really great, had the marks, whatever. Even though she's in theater and the arts, right? Why do you got to get that stuff? If you're an actor, singer, dancer, why do you need that for, right? So that's the point there. And my son, he went to social work. We all thought he's gonna be a social worker, and that was his path. And as soon as he finished, he said, "Nope, not doing it, not for me." He wants to make money. But all along the way, in his years of you got to work to go to school and stuff. He did a lot of door-to-door sales, and a lot of knocking on sales, people's doors and selling stuff. And he worked for himself and he worked for the companies. Now he's just started his own company, but also consults with another company, and he's making more money than me, right? And he's only 26, right? So he understands it, and it's a different paradigm. But he's now in sales. He should have went to school probably then for business and sales, but it's not what he thought he was going to do or what he was interested in at the time, and it's also not what we pushed him towards. Then there's my other daughter, who is really good at English, and she loves events and stuff, and we kind of pushed her to go to university, and she hated it. So after her first year, she dropped out, and then we said, well, you got a year to figure out what you want to do, because you're not going to do nothing. So she started doing parties and events and stuff, and got really good at that. So she went back to college to become an event planner, and lo and behold, now she's been doing that for the past year. She's run nightclubs, she's run bars, she's held parties, she's a party planner and promoter. She does the decor and stuff like that. She's got her own business that she's running for decor and stuff. And now she's owning into another venue that a guy just bought, that she'll be running with him and 2 other partners, running all the events through there. And she also picked up, like her dad, a job teaching. So she teaches event management at a private college as well. So again, the pathway wasn't straight for any of them. But the only thing I would definitely say that I'm glad I imparted in them is that, yeah, the need for higher education, but at the same point in time, follow your passions and dreams and make sure to be self-sustaining. So sometimes you might think it's a side hustle, but side hustles often become main gigs and often become quite lucrative. And the education wasn't about the education. It was, like you said, I think, Tiff, going through a process of understanding how to be a part of that realm of society. Because lots of people will tell you that it's a waste of money. Then why are you spending so much money? I think the cost of education has gone up dramatically because we're not seeing the subsidies or the value in public education or education being funded at different countries around the world. There's still some countries that have free education to higher post-secondary education, and some places don't. So you're talking now, the big crisis of international students here in Canada, and the average at college, we're talking 15 to 20,000 a year Canadian, and university is upward of 50 to 60,000 Canadian. But then you're talking about America, you're starting at 20, 30, and upwards of maybe even 100, 200 grand to go to school. So, when you multiply it by 4 years, I think what the lesson people are learning now about, value and economy and dollars in your pursuit of education is, what is that value actually worth? Is it worth spending $80,000, $100,000, and what's the return on that, right? Versus maybe if you still want higher education pursuing, maybe you need to find a way to spend 20,000, right? So that's the question. It's the pursuit is the question we're really discussing here. What are your thoughts, Tiff?
I kind of think about how a lot of this is systematic as well. It's like, well, why does everybody feel this way? And that's the way that the system was set up. Before, you couldn't get a job without having a degree in something. That was like the standard. You could not be something in life without, or quote unquote, could not be something in life without having a degree. I was one of those people that was a product of, well, you have to go to school. You can't just sit here, because I think that also when kids turn 18, they have these big eyes about, oh, I'm free. No, you just getting started. You just not getting started. So I think parents, and I myself included, panic in that sense of like, well, my kid, you can't just sit here and do nothing. We're scared that they're just going to sit here and do nothing. And so if they're busy with school, they don't have time to sit here and do nothing. They're at least doing something. And you have that cushion there, but then they'll rebel per se, and say, well, I don't want to do it. And then it becomes this pursuit of something else, of trying to figure out quickly what you want. So I think that one thing to really look at is the changing nature of work. So like, how do you guys think that the nature of work is evolving? I think that things are different now than they were years ago. I think that there's new jobs coming about. And like you guys said, like there's certain jobs that we're preparing for that aren't even things yet. So how is the nature of work evolving, and what like impact does that have on the need for higher education?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna take that. I'll start with that because I think we have to redefine, just like when I had one of my department chair meetings at advisory board, and I always make this reference. We're talking about the classroom because at that point, online learning was emerging as the future portal of education delivery. And one of the women on the panel, who was the director of distance learning at Winston-Salem State University, she said, well, Andy, I think based on this discussion here, we have to define where the future of the classroom is going to be, right? So when you just ask what's going on with the technology displacing jobs, and the whole education system was set up to prepare you for a job, we can say whatever, it's tied to the industrialized revolution. If we go back and do history, how much higher education was folks back in the day doing? They were all very self-sufficient and entrepreneurial in society. They were living, doing business, bartering and trading. You go way back there. And then the system was created as the way to really get prepared for the future for a good job, because you could have always gotten a job, Tiffany, without an education. There's all kinds of job, but what you were referring to just now is like what we call society call a good job, or a white collar job, a corporate
The prestige.
job.
It was a
Yeah,
prestige.
yeah. People still say, "Oh,
Yeah.
she's got a
Yeah.
good job."
You're going in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
So
But I've learned along the way to a job. Job means just over broke, by the way. Ain't no good job. The best job is when you're doing something you love and getting paid for doing it. That's what I've learned. And so I think, Paul and Tiffany, it's time for us, we the rebels here with our team talk, tie-dye talks and life lessons. I think society need to redefine the word. The pursuit of education versus the pursuit of schooling. Schooling isn't necessarily education, but it's so coined together. We use education meaning schooling. Everything you just talked about, Paul, is the school system, the university system, the business of quote unquote education. It's a business. They didn't let you go for free. Yep. So that investment that you talked about and the return of investment, the young creative mind, because the world is shifting again into driving entrepreneurship and creativity, they're thinking, why would I do this? Why would I spend all this, invest all this money? Because it's not spending. If you go to school and you getting something for that, that's an investment, quote unquote, in your future. So why would I invest 200,000? And then the people who did that before me are still jobless. And I just saw John leave high school and he's a millionaire doing X. This is what we face with right now, real talk. Gamers, right? I heard a guy saying, man, my son only want to play game. But you know what I'm scared of? There's some millionaire gamers out there. Who am I to shut him down? So I'm trying to figure out how to help him understand, okay, I don't want to stop you from playing a game, because you might be a professional gamer, but you still need your education. That education monster is deep in our psyche. That schooling monster, because I'm going to separate them in this talk for us to be able to define. It's deep in our psyche and all society. And that's why smart businesses, even the lotto, the game called lotto, it's the education lotto. Go figure. They throw the word education in there. What a weapon. Everybody likes education. Everybody gravitates to education. So anytime somebody want to sort of frame their business model around something valuable, they always talk about the educational aspect of what they're doing because that vibrates in our psyche as individuals as the most important thing in life. And it's
No,
and
well,
you
I'm
see,
gonna throw one more term on top of that. So if we're talking about redefining the topic and what we're talking about, I would say even in pursuit of knowledge, right? I
there
mean,
you
we
go.
might talk about education, we might talk about training, we might talk about this idea of schooling, but I think what are you really after? What's the difference? It's your knowledge. And what's knowledge? The acquiring through life experiences of information and skill sets and knowing how to have practical understanding. But then also, like we got into before last week too, and we were talking about defining, talent, right? Applying of something under pressure. I think it's the same thing in life. And we always say this is one thing when, for me anyways, I got 3 kids, mouths to feed because, you got married young and you got 3 kids and you got a full-time job and a side hustle and you're taking care of three, young babies. So that's why I laugh at my son now who's, 27, 28. And, I said, well, what is it that I was doing compared to what you were doing at the same age? He's saying, I'm not going to have kids, which I think is a smart move, right? We just made that decision that was good for us then. And I'm glad I had my kids, young, but people aren't doing that anymore, right?
Well, I gotta
So
say this. You're gonna get in trouble after this podcast. So just
why?
know your son was 26, now he's 27, 28. You don't know your
Oh, no.
son age and they're twins. You get some serious trouble. I get it right before we leave, please. 26, 27, or 28, it can't be all three.
In between.
There you go.
I just want
Whatever.
to say that. I'm listening. I heard that he's only 26, he's making more money. He's 27, 28.
Well, it's he's born. I can tell you, he's born in '97. He's in '97. My other daughter's '95, right? So this year he's
Do the math. Do the math
turn.
now and get it right.
Do the math. There you go.
I
There
don't
you
know
go.
my age. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
okay. It's all around the same thing, man. I just look at it as one big area. I don't business with exactly what age they are. Even my daughter, I joke and I tell her she's 30 all the time. She goes, "How can I be 30? How you guys keep saying that?" I say, "You act like you're 30. You're 30, 29, 30, whatever." I'm not specific. I'm more the general kind of guy. I don't worry about them things, right? But my point is that knowledge, right? And Andy's quizzing me, what's the knowledge of how old your kids actually are, right? It's my point is though is looking at that specific generation and understanding that now this generation is really keyed into knowledge, right? You look at the whole emergence of AI and what is knowledge. They don't have to have that knowledge themselves, but because and I joke in my classroom, they say just Google it. And now you can just perplexity it, right? It's another one that's come on the scene. I don't know if you guys have heard about that one, perplexity AI. They're trying to redefine how search works, and they're challenging Google for how we search for things. But we'll talk more about that when we get to our technology section. But back to the point, having information and knowledge, it's one thing, but it's, again, my point is always the application, right? So that's what the important part is why are you going to school? Well, you're not just going to school as always to learn about some particular subject or topic or to become something. You're going for an experience and you're going to learn, like I said, knowledge, right? But I think that can be gained also from life, right? So you can go, as they say, the school of life, right? You look at certain disenfranchised communities, certain communities whereby they look at people who are around who are making the money. They aren't the ones who went to higher education. It's the ones who kind of, like you said, Andy, you had to be entrepreneurial, had to hustle, had to make a way, make ends meet, had to take care of things, right? Different pressures for different people in life that, as we say back home, pressure bust pipe or pressure builds diamonds, right? So I think we need to look at it as this concept of pressure building diamonds. But if we always take away those opportunities for people to be under pressure, how will they ever be polished into a diamond? Right. So that's why I think from our generation, we suggest kids go to school and understand that pressure. We suggest, or even go into business yourself, go and understand and fail a few times at business and learn what it's about. But I think the difficult point, as you were saying, Andy, is discovering what your passion is. I didn't know what my passion was, in university when I first started out. Even that's why I took a year off. I still think I'm still finding some of the passion because I have more than one passion. So finding that passion may not be the same for everybody. Some people, I just know they say, look, I knew from the time I was small, this is what I wanted to be. Same thing for my younger daughter. If I show you, I joke now, she always meant to be an actor, writer, dancer, singer, because she did that since she could walk, right? And we have a video of her, listen to this, my mom's wedding, when she got remarried, because now it's my stepdad. My daughter at 5 years of age went around and queued up the DJ and didn't tell anybody and presented a special song and came out and just sang to the whole group. How many 5-year-olds knew that, are doing that, right? So that's in her. So that's why we want to encourage her to pursue what her dreams are. But we helped her to pursue it through education. Now she's got to pursue it in the real world about being an entrepreneur. So she's finding out the difficulties. So there's both aspects sometimes, right? And she's learning from both aspects. But yeah, that's what I think. That's my point, I'll throw it across to you, Tiff. What do you think about this pursuit, not only of education or schooling, but also the pursuit of knowledge?
I think with the pursuit of knowledge, with the changing nature of work, I think going into, I guess, university or pursuing that, I guess, segment of knowledge, one thing that you will figure out is what you don't want to do. That's for sure. And you might along the way figure out what you might want to do. I did not figure out what I wanted to do until I got out of university and into probably my second or third year of my career of teaching. I really started to put some pieces together and use the knowledge that I had gained and started to apply that. And that's where that wisdom started to come in and really start to connect those pieces. So I think that pursuing knowledge, one, it's important because you'll figure out some things along the way. You'll figure out what you possibly want, and more importantly, sometimes what you don't want. And that eliminates certain things from your field of view. So I think that that's still a positive and a good takeaway along that journey.
Yeah, well said, Tiffany. You triggered some things. I have a recent partner that I met, a business partner as part of our Tie-Dye Nation. You know, we're building this nation. I'm going to keep giving shout out to Tie-Dye Nation, Think and Do It Nation. And I have a recent partner that I connected to that said something. I won't give him credit, Jay. He said, how do you determine your purpose for life? Like something that as an educator, Paul, we talk to people as a coach, you mentor, and we all in search, every human being while we are alive in search of really, why did God make us, why are we here? What's our purpose for being here? And that's the first person that said things that lined up with a real way to define what you like, what you want to do as your purpose, or what your purpose is. He said, something you're naturally good at. That's the first criteria, first box you check. Something that you love to do as well. You're naturally good at it, but you just love doing it, right? You add the passion piece to the naturally. So you can be naturally good at something and you really don't, you're not passionate about it. I think Tiffany defined that in our previous session. She's naturally good at a lot of things. So that don't necessarily mean that's what her purpose is. So then you add your passion, you really love doing it too. Those two things. And the third thing he said threw me off until he defined it, and something you hate. Right? So what did he mean by something you hate? You hate something about what's going on and you want to do something about it. That could be a real motivator, a real trigger. I don't like the structure of the modern day education system. I'm going to build a new system. I don't like the structure of the way people are coaching soccer. I'm going to build, you know what I mean? Something you hate is a deep trigger tool as opposed to something you love and something you're naturally good at. You put all those three together and you check the boxes and you end up with your purpose and something you really want to do or why you're here to do it. I thought that was very profound. So I've been using that now to kind of define my life purpose for, because when you're doing multiple things like we do in Tie-Dye Nation, what's your purpose? Well, when I was leaving Foresight Tech after 25 years of a biology professor and life science department chair, I literally had a conversation with God. And my conversation was, God, I'm going into the world to build a university of life. That's a very deep conversation. And you know what? That's what Tie-Dye Nation is doing, though. We're building a university of life. What do I mean by that? Because if you look at our vision statement, Paul, our mission statement, which you helped me develop, right, as one of the leaders, we're talking about a place where people could step in to a system or an ecosystem and pursue what they love to do while generating money to do it, right? Matching your passion with a financial plan so that you can live into your purpose. Because we could say whatever we want about purpose and passion and this and that. It's still ain't going to pay the bills, right? And this is the fear factor when people want to jump in there and go after their passion. Parents and protectors are you going to make money with that? What are you doing? You know, that's not a safe thing to go do. But life in itself is living by faith, isn't it? Every time we in the plane, every time we go eat, we could point out so many incidents where we live by faith, but because it became the norm, everybody's doing it. We just get accustomed to it as though it's not a risk, but it's a risk. Living is living by faith. You understand? So what's the fear of if you want to go after your soccer dreams and it doesn't work out? You can go to university at 99.9. You can go to university at 100 years. You can go to university whatever age. Why is there such, don't do it. It might not work. And you do something else. Why do we hold that back when people want to step out by faith and we give them that protective net? And the biggest thing for me, Paul and Tiffany, is sometimes folks who haven't done what they're telling me, right? When I end up with a master's degree, I'm hearing people who didn't even have a bachelor's tell me, when you going to get your PhD? And I always say, when you going to get your bachelor's? Well, we start there. Why are you telling me to go do something that you didn't do? It's interesting. So, Paul, I'll roll it to you.
Yeah, I mean, you raised some definitely good points, right? At the end of the day, I think for me, I've always been in pursuit of knowledge. I've had what 6 different careers, not jobs, careers, right? Whereby for me, I will learn as much as I can in that particular industry, try and get as far as I think I can get at that point in time, and then sometimes something else might interest me, and I change and go again. But one thing that has remained consistent in all that is I've always seen myself, as you mentioned too, Andy, like yourself and Tiff, that I am an educator at the end of the day, right? I do see the value in helping people understand, acquiring knowledge in a certain area, understanding things, right? And then taking that understanding and applying application, applying things to where it is. Like I took a real estate course that spent like 20 something thousand dollars US at the time. People thought it was crazy. This was a few years back because I really wanted to learn about the industry and about real estate. It was often one of those things you might say you get duped or hyped. It was one of those Damon John, the guy, the owner of Fubu, came into town, into Toronto, and they had a bunch of real estate guys. So I took the course just to learn the nuances. But to make a long story short, how did I apply that knowledge? Well, myself, my wife, and my sister-in-law, we ended up buying a condo, understanding the differences in the market in the States and Canada. And, that the valuation of that condo throughout COVID has gone up by about $20,000-$50,000, right? But I didn't know those things. Not to say necessarily it wouldn't have gone up by that much anyways, but again, applying certain strategies, getting that particular condo, learning how to structure, which we're still in the process of now, a business now to be able to save taxes and et cetera on that. That's knowledge, right? You can't go to university for that stuff, unfortunately. I could say, oh, we want to pursue higher education in real estate. There are no real estate higher education courses specifically at universities that I know of. Maybe they have some now, but often the things that are really important in life are not being taught in an institution because that institution hasn't been a part of their system. So I think that, if you're about continual learning, you'll find ways to learn. Sometimes you do have to go to a formal institution to learn that thing. And sometimes there's other ways of learning or acquiring that knowledge and then applying it to your life. So I think for me, the pursuit is of education in general. I think the term higher education, when we know higher education meaning institutional, is where, we have this discussion, and also maybe some people agree, some people don't agree, but we have differences of opinion. But I think we all can agree that the pursuit of education in of itself is definitely something that is needed and should be had, even if you're in a position, you're an entrepreneur, and or you're going to go out there and do it. You should definitely learn about what you're doing along the way too, so that you can be the best possible self that you can be, and find your own levels of success through continual learning, right? Are you half empty or half full? I don't know. I'll throw it to you, Tiff. Right? That there's all kinds of psychology related to
And
that.
before Tiff respond to you there, Paul,
full or half empty. Right?
we on the slope, Tiff. This is something you created in Tie-Dye Nation, Tie-Dye Talks. We're gonna think it, which we've done a lot of, and talk about it, and then we're gonna do it. So as we look at this topic, this incredible topic, and based on everything Paul just delivered there, over to you. Can you also turn the pendulum into how can we help folks navigate this pursuit of higher education? Is it a must? And what are some things that I think we can look at to start giving for ourselves and for others to help navigate that course?
Yeah. So one thing I will say is that I think the big thing that we're dealing with is understanding that we're a part of a system. And it's just that in order for a system to be, there have to be the interworkings of it. And the interworkings of the system are the people. And so when you realize that, yes, you're a part of the system, and you have that thinking of, okay, well, how do we change it? It starts with you. So when we speak about collegiate education and university, if you know that you're a person who, hey, I can't be idle, I got to keep going, go pursue it, go into it, figure out what you can get out of it. There's certain things that can be beneficial from that, you'll learn lessons. At the very least, you'll learn a lesson. You'll learn about yourself. You'll learn about others. You'll learn what you like, what you don't like. There's still benefits that you can get out of it, right? And so I think that in that piece of what everyone has been speaking about is the system. We're fighting a system at the end of the day. And so with this system, we also are learning new doors. For me, I'm a product of the system. I did the path, I did the traditional path, you know, went through high school, pursued college. I'm now paying off student debt. How can I break this system? I have 2 kids. I can change the narrative when it comes to them. I don't have to sit here and push and say, well, you got to go to school. I don't care what you do, but you got to go to school. Thinking that I know them better than they know themselves. I'm there to support and I'm there to help guide, but I don't need to force anything on them. And I think that that's where that system starts to drag more people in and cog up that machine. So,
Wow. Again, very profound answer. I think for me, just now I was listening to Paul, the educator in us. So I think we look at where society is, and people can go after like the pursuit of knowledge, Paul, or the pursuit of a skill set, or the pursuit of, you know, a certification, because in this new world, skills are gonna win. Being able to do stuff is going to win. Theoretical knowledge is extinct with the Industrial Revolution, right? Because you're going to get away in a job, not even really doing that job, just, you know, playing solitary, and then when the supervisor shows up, you shut down your screen. But I think this new world, this digital revolution, this expedited post-COVID or living with COVID world, skills are going to win. So my suggestion is look at what skills you want to acquire based on, again, your passion, because you're not going to sustain or do anything that you don't like. We could say whatever, especially if they're paying good. Those that's bad equations. Good pay and you don't like it, you might tolerate, but bad pay and you don't like it, you're going to quit. So whatever you like, and you look at where the world is going, you say, you know what? I'm going to reinvent myself. I want to do this. But it's not a school system or university that you have to go to get that. There's so much, see, the higher education is being disrupted by the online open models, for like a Coursera and others. You have to look at that. It's changed the game. So you can stay home, get the credentials and go do something, a small business, and scale that, right? The folks that came up with Instagram are billionaires. The folks that came up with Twitter are billionaires. Facebook are billionaires. TikTok are billionaires. The folks that are coming up with the technology, AI stuff, you know, OpenAI, they're billionaires, right? So these are all things that is tied to academic knowledge and academic training. But I think with the pursuit of an entrepreneurship path, you do need certain foundational science to create, engineering to create, software engineering to create, right? But I think my suggestion to the folks who's listening to us and to ourselves, keep on that. I'm going to create a business hat with what I'm doing, right? Greatest among us is those who serve. And this thing about, oh, you just got to go to school and you're going to be successful. Let's not be lying to ourselves and others, but that equation never really worked. What is success? We defined it last time, right? That's a moving target too. But you know, the notion that if you don't go to school, you're going to be a nobody is what I'm addressing today. We all been kind of told that. It's like, you're wasting your time, you're a bum. And Tiffany, you made a point, and I want to throw this to Paul on this point. I think you're right. Some parents do get scared that their children are going to be a nobody, or they're going to drop out of high school, or they're not going to make it, and they're going to just sit around. But what about those you see wanting to do stuff and you telling them don't do it? They're not trying to be a bum, but they don't want to go the path you telling them to go. Why is that? Why can't you just support that? Why is there an argument? They're productive, they're doing something. Why do you have to get on them and say, what the hell are you doing? You know, need to go to school. The last thing, though, the most profound thing I want to address that you just said is there's some people that you're right, need structure. Go to school because they don't know what they want to do. And at least they may learn the discipline and the stick-to-ity of accomplishing something that then they can now maybe take, because the notion, Paul, of you just going to jump out there and be a disciplined entrepreneur, That's a myth too, right? I'm not trying to tell people, hey, I'm just going to open my business and you're not going to be challenged. As a matter of fact, it's a different animal. And so, damn if you do, damn if you don't. School is the safer path for those that I believe don't have that proper discipline. Let me just say that. That's a deep word, but the lessons you're talking about, school have it there because it's a structure and you got to do certain things to get outcomes. And maybe some of us really do need that guidance until we're mature enough to say, I can discipline myself. I don't need school to do it for me.
Yeah, discipline is an interesting perspective because, I don't think you necessarily need schooling for discipline, but people use, like you said, the system, the confines for that. Discipline is about being consistent and doing things even when you don't want to do it, right? Getting up and getting on the go and going and doing stuff. And that's where even now, me and my wife have been having a lot of conversations around where we go over the next 10, 20 years. And there's just some things I don't even want to do anymore. I can do it. I can't find the discipline for it, but I just don't want to. So part of it is, if you don't understand what somebody's doing and the person doesn't want to do it, why are you pushing them to it? I think a lot of time parents may want or expect their children to do certain things, but they don't understand it, right? So then they default back to what they do understand. I don't understand. The kid might be sitting around at home all day. Well, you don't know what he's sitting around at home doing. Maybe it is doing learning a skill set towards an entrepreneurial enterprise. Maybe he is learning, back to the gaming example. Maybe this person is playing games or a certain amount of hours. You got to get in there, back to the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing. Or maybe you got to have 10,000 hours of video gaming before you realize how good you can actually get at video gaming. So now you can actually, be competitive and go and become a pro at video gaming, right? And playing e-gaming and whatnot. There's lots of money in that too as an industry, but how many parents know about or grew up in the industry knowing about e-gaming as even a potential or a viable source of employment or a viable source of a future, right? So that's the thing too, because you're taking advice or parents are trying to advise, or do they really have the skill set to advise? They have the skill sets of life, lived lessons, and of being a parent, and you're a parent over that particular person, or it could be other younger people in your life. But are you truly equipped to give the advice that's necessary? Just because you're a parent, right? So that's the funny thing, because I think as the world is changing and becoming much more democratized too, as well, with tools and technology is one we're seeing. And also in addition to that, we're seeing things are changing. So the things that we could typically or potentially refer or talk about or give examples or lessons on, are we really truly equipped? We're probably not, because the world is changing, right? So, at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to that pursuit, like what you said, Andy, too, of yourself, finding out who you are and being happy. But sometimes people aren't happy, but they got to provide. You know what I mean? That's another thing, you're going to pursue something because you have to learn that skill set to be able to provide, because that's a valuable part of wherever you are in life. There's certain things that you
Well, come on, just jump in and ask this before you finish the play to Tiffany. The movie Pursuit of Happiness, starring with the great Will Smith. Did you guys see that movie?
Yeah.
Is that tied to this pursuit that we discussed? Anything, guys? That just popped in my head. The Pursuit of Happiness, the movie that had these life lessons that maybe was tied to, I mean, I know it was career oriented in terms of, but is that tied to this in any way, you guys think?
What do you think, Tiff?
I would say yeah. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I can't draw a reference, unfortunately. However, yeah, I would say the overarching goals that that movie was trying to get across, I think that it ties in. That you pursue something so much, and then what? You look back, and then what?
Yeah. But I think the interesting part about that, it still deals with it with the struggle, right? Part of the base of the movie, somebody struggling with homelessness, and this is what I was saying to you before. Me and my wife call this factor. Say, we always joke. We say, hey, why is that actor? Why is that entertainer? Why is that person doing what they're doing there? You want to eat? You want to eat, right? So you want to eat. That's always our thing, And you listen to Eric Thomas, who's another motivator I listen to sometimes, and he talked about, again, himself being homeless. You hear about this story of a lot of people being homeless. It's a typical rag to riches American kind of fame story that everybody loves to get to. Hey, if I wasn't homeless, can I now be a motivator and a speaker? I heard that one guy say that one time too, and it kind of made me chuckle, because it seems to be that's the pathway, people being able to share their story of how bad it got for them in order for them to climb out of that situation to be this greatness, as the world says that you're supposed to be great. But I think that's kind of a little bit of nonsense too, because all of us have the capacity to struggle and to be successful in that struggle, and it's not just to attain this super success. It goes back to our conversation last week. What are you defining as success? I think somebody who's hustling their whole life to provide for a family, that's a great role model. That's a leader. That's somebody who did what they had to do. Now, can you make it better for your kids, or are your kids making it better for you? Who are finding a better path and a better way of life? Absolutely, that's what it's about, right? So for me, the pursuit of happiness, it has the same common themes we're talking about today. And you're pursuing education or higher education or knowledge for what though? This is where it comes in the do it part now, Andy. Like, what are you willing to do? I've had, in my life, 5 different businesses, right? And I've worked for 2 startups, 3 startups actually, right? And I joke and I say before, Danny, 2 or 3 of them are failed. Meaning what? Meaning they're still not around today making millions of dollars, but I learned lots of life lessons from them. And this is while holding down a full-time job, while running a family, having a family and whatnot. But again, I had this pursuit of wanting to learn more. So now I'm much more knowledgeable and educated about being an entrepreneur, about investing, about these kind of things that no one was there to teach you. And you couldn't go to university to learn these things, right? Nobody was there to help you. So that's why you need mentors. You need people who have experienced certain things in life, who are older to you, who can give you guidance and advise you, which sometimes often is the role that parents would have played, or people part of a community would play that. But that's why we're doing what we're doing at TIDA. We're looking to build an ecosystem of people who have subject matter expertise, not only from a knowledge perspective or a book perspective, but also, you notice I separated the 2 of them, from also a experiential, right? It's one thing for somebody, to say, walk a mile in my shoes, and then come tell me how to walk in them, right? Because you haven't walked in my shoes. But just because you've walked in the shoes doesn't also mean that you have the right to tell a person how it's going to be and the only way to be, because the time in which you walked in those shoes is different. The road and the path you took is changed. You had to walk it through mud and sleet and snow. Now the person's walking it on a super highway. You know what I'm saying? So again, the application is still there, but I think this all ties into what we're doing for the whole perspective now, shifting the conversation to finish it up on the do it part is, what are we actually doing? Well, this is the first thing, this podcast. So thanks for being here. You're hearing the podcast, right? The next thing will be when we actually release, I don't want to premise it, but when we do release our educational platform, which will have programs whereby you all be able to tune in and listen to some of these things and get some, live life experience, but at the same time, get some things to do, actual activities for you to do so you can grow and learn your own business. And Andy and I've already done that, not to talk about our own personal experiences, but we've already sat down with younger people, started mentoring them, gone out to meetings, given them experiences on how to set up their business, what they need to be doing, how they need to prepare for investment, point them to who to talk to for certain investors. So that's the other part that's coming in the future. So stay tuned, because we want to move you from the talking part into the doing part, and that's what we're all about here at TIDA. So I'll throw it back to you, Andy.
Well, Paul, you always we winding down, but you triggered some more thoughts, so it's on you because here's what you triggered, Paul. Well, first of all, guys, what I realized with a little glitch today, our first part got cut, and the first part was incredible for me. I mean, I was really enjoying how we started today. And one of the things we're going to continue to say for those who don't understand, this is unscripted, right? Even when we forced to try to get structure behind the scenes, we're breaking it down, because I truly believe in that God inspires us and gives us the information as we flow naturally. All this stuff, look, we can keep going for another hour. It's not going to stop, because we have these life lessons in all of us. But what I wanted to say, I will summarize for those who missed the front, because I think it's going to be 2 recordings. And the topic today was, should everyone pursue higher education? And we defined that in the beginning as to what we mean by higher education. What level are we talking about? And what about vocation and practical kind of certifications and trainings? Is that higher education? And we really went through that whole definition before we looked at solutions to this dilemma that we all face, because I think culturally around the world, everybody's heard that same narrative about the importance of education. But there are some parents that realize, wait a minute, they're making money playing golf. They're making money playing tennis. They're making money singing. So I want to call 3 iconic families. I don't know them at all. I don't know Tiger Woods and his parents. I don't know the Williams sisters and Richard and their parents. We saw the movie, but I don't know them. I don't know the Jacksons and their parents, but we see in the story, because those are 3 very iconic athletes and entertainers, especially in the Black society. My question to you guys, starting with Tiff and Paul as we end, is they've achieved tremendous popularity, financial success, and all that, fame, fortune. Do you think kids, though, even when they're forced to do something again on that level, we talked about forcing you to go to school and see how important school is, but they're going the other way, do you think they're still unhappy at times because that's not really what they wanted to do? They didn't have a choice. You're going to do this. And they did it, and they're making money. Do they still have resentment and maybe they wanted to do something else? What do you guys think?
I would say probably to a degree, yeah. I think that at some point within that journey, you're gonna lose that spark for it. I think that that's so much pressure after a while, you're like, I just don't even want this anymore. I would like to almost just go and work a desk job, you know? And so I do think that that piece can get overwhelming in those senses. I think that everybody goes through those ups and downs and those highs and lows through something, because I think Serena, correct me if I'm wrong, is doing something different now, yeah? I don't know if either y'all know.
Yeah, she's doing a lot, but she's still the Grand Slam queen, right?
She is.
But before
She
she
is.
transitioned,
Mm-hmm.
there might be some resentment. So let me ask you this, Tiffany,
Mm-hmm.
because we want the solutions on, and Paul could address it as well. So are you saying once we don't choose our path, academically or vocationally or career, once we were forced to do it, and wasn't going back to the three things, naturally good at, passionate about, hate about something, there is a level of disappointment, regret, being unhappy that still resides, and hence why we see some celebrities commit suicide and you wonder they had everything going. How is that possible? Yeah, you think that's really the psychosis of human behavior, that you didn't choose this. Somebody made you do this, and there's resentment that stays with you.
I think, yeah, I really do. I honestly would equate this as simple as, like, let's talk about chores, right? If I was gonna go take out the trash, right? But I got distracted by something, and now my husband comes in and says, hey, can you go take out the trash? Well, now I don't want to do it because you told me I have to do it. I don't now. Now I have a bad attitude about it.
I think
You know,
I felt
before
to switch in here, Paul, for a second. Go ahead, Tiffany.
We have to get your husband on here and get his side of it, right?
do it.
Let him know what's going on with Tiffany when he asked her if she take out the garbage.
Go ahead, Tiffany. Stop me for jumping in. Now you don't want to do it because it's like,
I don't. Yeah, now I don't want to do it. Now I have an attitude about it, and now you
Uh-oh.
know, because you told me I have to do it, and so that changes the way that we view something. And at some point, then you're like, well, all right, well, I have to do this, and the money's good, right? If you're doing something that somebody else told you, there's still, now you have to kind of convince yourself why you're here. You have to kind of go back on those things. But I do think that it would build a resentment over time. You know, I think that there's a lot of people that now it's like, well, I wasted, quote unquote, so many years doing this when I really wanted to be doing this. But then, you know, you're never too old to start something. We all know that. So I think that, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of resentment built just because nobody likes to be told what to do. And that's just human nature.
I hope that trash example is just an example. Else I'm
It
going to
is.
call Joe, because, he should be thinking of the trash. Joe, your dad is my brother, so you better, we take out the trash. If she helps, great. But
Yeah.
that sounds like a male chauvinist. I don't want to get in trouble. So, Paul, over to you, brother. I mean, the resentment after you were forced to do a career and you're a superstar. And so we didn't address that. And that's the curveball I'm ending with. What do you think?
It's interesting. I think it's even more than that, because what's the relationship, right? Look at the relationship a lot of times with these people who are told it's what to do. I was watching a video the other day that talked about exactly that. And again, it was a video in the Black community talking about these people who are successful, i.e., like you said, Serena Williams and Tiger Woods, and people who were told, even look at Beyonce, but what's the relationship now with her father? What's the relationship now with Serena Williams and their father? They're making documentary movies now, and forcing and telling a kid they got to do something from the time they're young. Are you being their dad? Are you being their mom? Or are you now? And you look at a lot of these stars, a lot of times their parents wanted success for them because it also meant success for the parent. So they're living vicariously to their children, right? And a lot of times, you see it now, parents are pushing their child because their child's gonna be the next prodigy, the next star. And a lot of these skill sets, as you notice, and a lot of this is that it's a late specialization. People get to that. It's about letting a kid be a kid and growing up, but is letting somebody growing up being who they are going to produce that superstardom that unfortunately this world is looking for, right? And that's the problem I find. It's not so much that at the end of the day. To me, what's the problem is the relationship. And I had the same problem with my son too as well. He'll tell you, like, I pushed him really hard at soccer and stuff. He was actually a really good, talented player. And it's funny you said, Andy, you mentioned, did he love it? He never loved playing the game to that level, right? I loved it, but I pushed him hard. But then I learned to back off and leave him. Then he just said one day he doesn't want to play anymore. And so I said, no problem. I understand that. Did it hurt our relationship for a while? Absolutely it did. But I worked hard at repairing that relationship. And now I counsel a lot of parents. I said, look, leave them alone. Let me be the one as a coach to deal with certain things. Your job is not to berate them on how they played in the way home in the car ride. Your job is not to tell them they're the next Messi or Ronaldo or Pele or whatever the heck you want to say it is. That's kind of, my domain to help them. But at the same time, as a coach, I have to do better now, so it's still learned lessons. Like even most recently, we had some games and some players aren't getting playing time. It's an exhibition I arranged. So I said to my assistant coach, why are these players not getting time? And he goes, well, I thought this is, who cares? Who cares whether you win this game or not? Right? At the end of the day, we're going to have lots more of them. Yeah, you have to win the game to teach them about winning. So don't get me wrong. It's not at all. We're not going to say that these kids shouldn't come here and learn how to compete. But each kid has to have the ability. Each player has to have the ability to participate and to learn those lessons as well. And I think oftentimes as coaches, as educators, as parents, we take that domain away from them, right? So bringing it back home to the specific part of the topic now is how many people have had that domain taken from them? Michael Jackson, right? But what was he forced to do? What ended up happening to him? So we see this now later on in life as, the tearing of their mental psyche and their fabric and like you said, regret and many, many things. And it's a common theme throughout many stars. And it's not just only within any one color or culture. You look at Molly Cyrus and all these people who are divorcing from their parents. So they start a young actor. You hear about, what's her name?
Britney Spears.
Amanda Bynes, Britney Spears, a lot of them, right? There's so many. So it's the same thing. The parents recognize something greatness in them, but then is it part of it a capitalization for the parents too, right? So I just think going back to our point is you want to nurture and you do want to push your kids, but if you're having somebody told what to do all the time, you're definitely right. I think part of it is not only resentment. I think another part of it is burnout too, right? If you're doing something from a very, very young age, and then you also weren't allowed to be a kid, and you saw others being a kid, then you kind of search for that some part of that was missing for you as you get older. But the other side of it, the person says, well, now I provided a financial lifestyle for you, or a lifestyle that you would not have been able to have. So what's the trade-off worth? I'm not judging one side or the other because I'm not in those situations. I'm not judging those parents by any means at all either. I'm just saying that it's back to the point is learned lessons and what's the cost? If you're prepared to pay the cost, if you're prepared to say that you're okay financially, you're making money, you're living the life you want, your kids are living the life you want, but yet your relationship sucks, right? Is that what you want? If that's what you want and that's the outcome, then so be it. Are there those who may still have a positive relationship too? I'm not saying every single person have a negative relationship. The point though is that there's similarities that are shown there. So in the end, Andy, I think the point here really is when somebody's told what to do and pushed towards something, and back to your point, it's not their God-given talent where they can find themselves expressive, then there's always going to be some sort of questioning around, well, why did I do that? That's just human nature. Like I said, I took science and chemistry. It's not what I loved or I wanted to do. I was good at it. I was told that's what I should take, so I did it. If I'd known what I know now, I definitely should have went into business, right? Or into where I'm in now.
Biology is definitely better than chemistry. You should have. I mean,
I
why would
know
you go
that.
from B to C? Doesn't even make sense to me. But go ahead, sorry.
No, but not even that. I'm just saying, where am I right now? I'm more in. It's funny you say it because what we're doing. I'm in humanities right now. I'm in social sciences. Would I have ever gone and done that? No. I was like, who's taking that? That's basketball even courses. That was my mentality at the time, right?
I know.
But I love Black history. I loved a lot of history, so I learned a lot of history, which allowed me now to deal with people, which is another aspect you need to learn and have skill sets to be able to do. So my point is, though, from there, those things were not wasted. Maybe perhaps at the time I might have thought they were, but without those foundational pieces in my life at that point in time, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, right? So, and I wouldn't be here sitting down doing a tie-dye talks and working to help build, a worldwide phenomenon, something that's going to be different, right? Yeah. So I thank those skill sets, and then you'll often hear Annie will, praise me, or people praise each other on those skill sets. But where those skill sets come from? They came from embattlement, being in those places that I didn't understand or didn't know. And sometimes, like you said, some people may know their destiny or key into it right away. but sometimes God has you travel a path, right? If you took the easy path, what would be the experience? What would be the life lessons you could leave for others? How could you really impart if you didn't have those battle scars, right? You know, they say what doesn't break you will make you better. That's the issue. But the question is, do you have to go through that in order to
If
get
the
better?
one that doesn't kill you make you stronger, but they realize you're dead already. So the stronger part didn't come because it did kill
You
you.
can't come back. Let's say
You
it's
make
a
it sound like
jumpy.
you were
Unless you're
survived
coming
the
back like it's
first
a
part.
jumpy or something. Jumpy or duppy. The duppy and jumpy coming back. There you go. Now you're nice. Now you're really strong. Your supernatural power.
Yeah, but you know, as we close, guys, this was incredible. And I gotta give credit to a young partner, Tiffany, for being the architect of this topic today. Should everyone pursue higher education? I'm gonna leave off by saying the answer to that is pursue your passion. And parents, talk to your kids and find out what they want to do. And can we come from a position of support instead of judgment? Can we really understand why they're saying that? And we're protective by nature as parents. So you know, the truth is parents are trying to protect children, even when they say, what are you thinking about doing this? Why? Because that's the limit to what they know. And when you're an entrepreneur, that's the part you want to tell the kids to be when you're a professional baller. You know, it seems like we want to mirror our life into our kids' life all the time, to your point, Paul, whether it's for feeling proud, feeling like I've done, talented we are as a family. But I think our life lessons and the message today for me that's resonated strong is if we can leave some suggestions, we gotta learn to listen and help support instead of just direct somebody else's path. We are the architects of our own life. We are the architects of our destiny. And just like all cycle in life, we were all once kids, then we became parents, and then the kids, you know what I mean? So the same parents who are anchored as parents were once kids. What did you want to do? Right? And maybe having those open conversations could lead to, because I think, Paul, the tragedy in life is to lose that relationship. The most important thing I think in this true journey of life is nourishing relationships with family and friends. Friends become family because it's so you know what I mean, we're so connected and time together. And why do we wait till the funeral for all the crying when we could have fixed what, because you wanted to do this and I wanted you to do that. I think the quicker we learn to hand off to our kids and to whoever what they want to do while guiding, the better off we'll be. That's kind of my closing statement for today's talk. The pursuit of higher education should be the eyes of the beholder. What do you want to do? Because that word is deeper than school, it's deeper than a degree. Education is looking at life and understanding how I'm going to survive in this life. And we should be called human doings, not human beings, because our journey is to do and learn from the doing. The true learning comes from doing everything we're talking about. It's about the doing process because you do learn. You know what I mean? We do learn. And so life lessons, our theme is the more you do, the more you learn.
So I'll just take it next because I want Tiff to end off since it was her topic today. So I'll just say, you know, in the words of the ancient Egyptians, I'm not a human being, I'm a human becoming. Back to your words, Andy. And I'll leave you with just one little thing that I think ties it up for me anyways, is that everything for a reason and a season, right? And so with that, I would say understand how that plays in as a part of what you're doing, back to your point around relationships, around education stage, because it is a stage of your life, but it's ongoing. So everything for a reason and a season. Over to you, Tiff.
Yeah, my big thing is understand that every person that is on this earth has value in some way, shape, or form. You have value. You exist to pursue what you were created for. And you need to find that niche. And it may not look like what society deems that is, and that's quite all right. Because even the people at McDonald's, we need them. Because when I go through that drive-thru, I want my burger made. I need you, So understand that there's value in every person that is placed on this earth. And you get to define that. And that's the best part about it. Give yourself grace through that journey.
Well, Paul, end it off like you do.
Alrighty, thanks for another great talk, guys, ladies, people. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this week. Look forward to catching us next time. Same station, same place. Wherever you found us, you'll find us there again. And hey, share this, send it out to your friends. If you find value, discuss it, jump in the conversation, join us weekly. We'll be here again next time on Tie Dye Talks. All right.
Take care.